Hi guys, this is Allison from Alley Cat Creations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet to do so. Thank you to all of those who have. Please, if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please check out all the links below. Those are ways you can help me. And if you like little desk organizers that look like gems, coasters, I make different colors, skulls, business card holder with gems inside, hearts, color, but with heart, pyramids, got a lot of them down there, artwork, all that fun stuff, alleycatcreations211.com. Email me because that's just a portfolio. If you see anything you like, email me. Best way you can get in contact with me, unless you know me personally, mind you. So I was going to do this yesterday, but yesterday I had the dizzy drunk spins like never before, and I did not have a cocktail or a drink. So I didn't feel safe, like, because it's hard enough that I don't have a tracker to help me with my little dyslexia issue. So we're going to go back into the Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky, where we started book 2. And because of the length of this chapter, I had to cut it up. So I do apologize for that. Her stuff is long, and I know I had problems when I did the first book. In the beginning, I was overwhelmed with how long my videos were going, so I try to keep things within an hour, even though sometimes I go over a bit, but we'll see how long we can get through this. We're still on, I want to say this is stanza 1. Don't quote me, I don't remember. Bad that I don't remember. But this was off of page 38, and I'm going to pick up to where I left off. Okay. Quote, now light, end quote, explains the author, as shown, is 20,612 to 6,561 as the proper enunciation of the integral and numeral relation of diameter to circumference of a circle. God, Al-Him, is the reduction of this so as to obtain a standard unit 1 as the basis in general of all calculation and all mensuration. But for the production of animal life and for the special time measure or the lunar year, the influence which caused conception and embryonic development, the numbers of the Jehovah measure, hundred, I don't know what that reference is. Like, cause she has a note there. I'm gonna read on because I don't want to confuse myself or you guys. But this last ratio is but a modified form of light, or 20,612 to 6,561, as a pi value being only a variation of the same. That is 20,612 to 6,561 is 31,415 to 1, or Al-Him, or God, and in such a manner that one can be made to flow into and derived from the other. And these are the 3 steps by which the unity and sameness can be shown of the divine names. That is, the 2 are but variations of the same ratio. That a pi, the object of this comment, is to show the same measuring used for the Kabbalah as was employed in the 3 covenants of the Bible and in the symbols of masonry are just noticed. First, then, Sitharoth are described as light. That is, they themselves are function of, indeed, the same as the manifestation of Ein Sof, And they are so from the fact that light represents the ratio of 20,612 to 6,561 as a part of the words Dibrim, DBRIM, 41,224, or as to the word Debar, DEVAR, 206 equals 10 cubits. Light is so much the burden of the Kabbalah in explaining the Sitharoth that the most famous book on the Kabbalah is called Zohar, or light. In this, we find expressions of this kind. The infinite was entirely unknown and diffused no light before the luminous point violently broke through the vision. When he first assumed the form of the crown or the Sifra, he caused 9 splendid lights to emanate from it, which shining through it diffused a bright light in all directions. That is, these 9 with his one, which is the origin as above of the 9, together made the 10. That is the circle with the line in the middle, or the circle with the X, or the sacred 10 numbers of Sitharoth, or Yod. And these numbers were the light. Just as the Gospel of St. John, God al-Him, 31,415 to 1, was the light by which light all things were made. I'm going to put a pause right there for a quick second. So if this is losing anybody, the Curtises, I want to say the Keys to the Universe is where they go through, and the other one, there's a book after that that goes through the numbers and their meanings. And they take a lot of this information from Blavatsky, but also from Sefer Yetzirah and other people, Officius Levi, and some other books. Like, they culminated a lot of information to understand the numbers. So if you kind of get that confused, it is confusing, and it's like, what the fuck is this girl talking about, right? Don't worry, there are other books that kind of go into the numbers and the meanings of just 1 through 22, I think it is. But I do read a lot of that stuff on this channel. It's kind of the Curtis books. And then the esoteric section, I do a lot of fun things. Okay, sorry, back to the book. And as I'm saying this, Sefer Yetzirah, or numbers of creation, the whole process of evolution is given out in numbers. In its 32 paths of wisdom, the number 3 is repeated 4 times, and the number 4 5 times. Therefore, the wisdom of God is contained in numbers, Sifrim, or Sephiroth. For Sefer, Sephra, when unvoweled, means to cipher. And therefore, also we find Plato stating that the deity geometries in fabricating the universe. The Kabbalistic book, the Sefer Jezreah, opens with a statement of the hidden wisdom of Elohim in Sephrim, the Elohim in the Sephiroth. In the 32 paths, hidden wisdom establish Jah, Tezaboth, Elohai of Israel, Alhem of life, El of grace, mercy, exalted, uplifted, dweller on high, and King of the everlasting, and his name holy is the 3 Sephrim. I am not pronouncing any of those, just putting that one out there. This comment sends forth the hidden wisdom of the original text by hidden wisdom. That is, by the use of words carrying a special set of numbers and a special phraseology, which will set forth the very explanatory system which we find to fit accurately in the Hebrew Bible, in setting forth his scheme to enforce it and to finish out his detailed exposition in a general postulate, the one word, Sephrim, of the number Jezrah. The author explains the separation of this word in the three subordinate ones, a play upon a common word, surf. Yeah, that's not coming out. The Prince al-Shazari says to the rabbi, I wish now that thou wouldest impart to me some of the chiefest or leading principles of natural philosophy, which, as thou sayest, were in the former times worked out by them, the ancient wise ones. To which the rabbi makes answer, to such principles appertains the number of creation of our race, father Abraham, that is Abram and Abraham, or numbers 41,224 and 41,252. He then says that this book of Numbers treats of teaching the alhimness and oneness through the brim, the numbers of the word words. That is, it teaches the use of the ratio 31,415 to 1 through 41,224, which last in the description of the Ark of the Covenant was divided into two parts by two tables of stone, on which these dibrum, or 41,224, were written or engraved, or 20,612 by two. He then comments on these three subordinately used words and take care as to one of them to make the comment. And Al-Him said, let there be a light. Yips! Not really. Doesn't matter who says it. It's all source anyway. It's the lower gods fighting over the absoluteness of the one, which they all are like, I know about it. I'm just giving you my own opinion. But yeah, for those who question. The three words as given in the text, and it's Hebrew. And I was a child when I went to Hebrew school, and I did not do well, and I never went back. So I don't know how to read Hebrew. I'm not really. I was raised by Jewish people, but I did not ascribe myself to that. So I don't know what those three text words are. So I do apologize. And the rabbi, in commenting upon them, says it teaches the alhimness and the oneness through words, dabrim, by which on the one side there is infinite expression in heterogeneous creations, and on the other, a final harmonic tendency to oneness, which, as everyone knows, is the mathematical function of pi, of the schools, which measures and weighs and numbers the stars of heaven, and yet results them back into the final oneness of the universe through words. Their final accord perfects itself in the oneness that ordains them, and which consists of Book of Al-Shazari. That is, the rabbi is in his first comment leaves the jod or I out of one of the words, whereas afterwards he restores it again. If we take the values of those subordinate words, we find them to be 340, 340, 346. Together, these are 1,026, and the division of the general word into these has been produced, these numbers, which by Tamura may be changed in various ways for various purposes, a Kabbalah. The reader is asked to turn to stanza 4 of book 1 and its fourth commentary to find that the 3, 4, 7, and the thrice 7, or 1065, the number of Jehovah, is the number of the 21 Parakti mentioned in the Mahabharata, or the three Sephrim, words in cipher or figures, and the comparison between the creative powers of archaic philosophy and the anthropomorphic creator of exoteric Judaism, since their esotericism shows its identity with the secret doctrine, will lead the student to perceive and discover that in truth Jehovah is but a lunar and generation god. It is a fact well known to every consciousness and conscientious student of the Kabbalah that the deeper he dives into it, the more he feels convinced that unless the Kabbalah, or what is left of it, is read by the light of the Eastern esoteric philosophy, its study leads only to the discovery that on the lines traced by exoteric Judaism and Christianity, the monotheism of both is nothing more exalted than ancient astroatry. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. Now vindicated by modern astronomy. The Kabbalists never cease to repeat the primordial intelligence can never be understood. It cannot be comprehended, nor can it be located. Therefore, it has to remain nameless and negative. Hence the Aeon Soph, the unknowable, and the unnameable, which, as it could not be made manifest, was convinced to emanate manifesting powers. It is then within emanations alone that human intellect has to and can deal. Christian theology, having rejected the doctrine of emanations and replaced them with direct conscious creations of angels and the rest out of nothing, now finds itself hopelessly stranded between supernaturalism or miracle and materialism. An extra-cosmic God is fatal to philosophy. An intra-cosmic deity, spirit, and matter, inseparable from each other, is a philosophical necessity. Separate them, and that is which left is a gross superstition under a mask of emotionalism. But why geometrize, as Plato has it? Why represent them and these as numerations under the form of an immense arithmetical table? The question is well answered by the author just cited. His remarks are quoted in part 2, the theogony of the creative gods. Mental perception, he says, to become physical perception must have the cosmic principle of light. And by this, our mental circle must become visible through light, or for its complete manifestation, the circle must be that of physical visibility or light itself. Such conceptions, thus formulated, become the groundwork of the philosophy of the divine manifesting in the universe. This is philosophy. It is otherwise when we find the rabbi in Al-Jazari saying that under SPHR is to be understood calculation and weighing of created bodies, for the calculation by means of which a body must be constructed in harmony or symmetry, by which it must be in construction rightly arranged and made to correspond to the object in design, consists at last in number, extension, mass, weight, coordinate, relation of movements, the then harmony of music, must consist together by number, that is, by Sipper, so far, is to be understood the words of Al-Him, whereunto joins or adapts itself the design of the frame of form of construction. For example, it was said, let light be. The work became as the words were spoken, that is, as the numbers of the work came forth. This is materializing the spiritual without scruple. But the Kabbalah was not always so well adapted to monotheistic conceptions. Compare this with any of the 6 schools of India. For instance, in Kapila's Sankhya, I'm butchering that once again, we already know, sorry. Philosophy, unless allegorically speaking, Purusha mounts on the shoulders of Prakti. The later remains irrational, while the former remains inactive without her. Therefore, nature in man must become a compound of spirit and matter before he becomes what he is. And the spirit latent in matter must be awakened to life and consciousness gradually. The monad has to pass through its mineral, vegetable, and animal forms before the light of the Logos is awakened in the animal man. Therefore, till then, the latter cannot be referred to as man, but as to be regarded as a monad imprisoned in ever-changing forms. Evolution, not creation by means of words, is recognized in the philosophies of the East, even in their exoteric records. Even the name of the first man in the Mosaic Bible had its origin in India. Professor Max Muller's negation without standing, the Jews got their Adam from Chaldea, and Adam, Admi, is a compound word and therefore a manifold symbol and proves the occult dogmas. This is no place for philosophical disquisitions, but the reader may be reminded that the words adi mean in Sanskrit the first, in Aramaean one, the Assyrian father, whence a father creator. And once the statement is found correct, it becomes rather difficult to confine Adam to the Mosaic Bible alone and to see therein simply a Jewish name. There is frequent confusion in the attributes and genealogies of the gods in their theogonies, as given to the world by the half-initiated writers, Brahmanical and biblical, the alpha and the omega of the records of the symbolic science. Yet there could be no such confusion made by the earliest nations, the descendants and pupils of the divine instructors, for both the attributes and the genealogies were inseparably linked with cosmological symbols, the gods being the life and animating soul principle of the various regions of the universe. Nowhere and by no people was speculation allowed to range beyond those manifested gods. The boundless and infinite unity remained with every nation a virgin, forbidden soil, untrodden by man's thought, untouched by fruitless speculation. The only reference made to it was the brief conception of its diastolic and systolic property of its periodical expansion or dilation and contraction in the universe, with all its incalculable myriads of systems and worlds disappearing and reappearing in eternity. The anthropomorphized powers of gods, their souls had to disappear from view from their bodies, the breath returning to the eternal bosom, which exhales and inhales them, says, the catechism. Ideal nature, the abstract space in which everything in the universe is mysteriously and invisibly generated, is the same female side of procreative power in nature in the Vedic as in every other cosmogony. Aditi is Sephira, and the Sophia Akhmoth of the Gnostics, and Isis, the Virgin Mother of Horus. In every cosmogony behind the higher, then the creative deity, there is a superior deity, a planner, an architect of whom the creator is but the executive agent. And still higher, over and around, within and without, there is the unknowable and the unknown, the source and cause of all these emanations. It thus becomes easy to account for the reason why Adam, Adi, is found in the Chaldean scripture, certainly earlier than the Mosaic books. An Assyrian Ad is the father, and the Armenian Ad is one, and the only one, while Ak is a Syrian creator. Thus, Adam Kadmon became Adam Kadmon in the Kabbalah Zohar, meaning as it did the one Son of the Divine Father, or the Creator, for the words am and meant at one time nearly every language the divine or the deity. Thus, Adam Kadmon and Adam Amandi came to mean the first emanation of the Father, Mother, or divine nature, and literally the first divine one. And it is easy to see that Ad Agar, the Syrian goddess, the consort of Adon, the Lord God of Syria, or the Jewish Adonai. And Venus, Isis, Istar, Myla, Mylita, Eve, etc., are identical with the Adati and Vak of the Hindus. They are all the mothers of all living and all of the gods. On the other hand, cosmically and astronomically, all the male gods become as first sun gods, then theologically, the sons of the righteousness, and the logi, all symbolized by the sun. They are the proto-Johnny, the firstborn, and don't know how to say that word. I'm not going to even attempt that. With the Jews, Adam Kadmon was the same as Tammuz and the Adonis of the Greeks, the one with of his father, the father becoming during the later races, Helios, the son as Apollo, I'm not getting that. For instance, who was the son born? Osiris, Orsman, and so on, were all followed by and founded themselves transformed later into still more earthly types, such as Prometheus, the crucified of Mount Kajibi, Hercules, and so many other sun gods and heroes, until all of them came to have no better significance than phallic symbols. In the Zohar, it is said man was created by the Sifthara, Elohim, Yavez also, and they have engendered by common power the earthly Adam. Therefore, in Genesis, the Elohim say, behold, man is become as one of us. But in Hindu cosmogony, or creation, Brahma Prajakti, I can never get that name out, creates that one too, I can't get out. And the rishis, spiritually, therefore the later are distinctly called the mind-born sons of Brahma. And this specified mode of engendering precluded every idea of phallicism. At any rate, in the earlier human nations, this instance well illustrates the respective spirituality of the two nations. Said the Lord of the shining face, I shall send thee a fire when thy work is commenced. Rinse thy voice to other lokas. Apply to thy father, the Lord of the lotus. For his sons, thy people shall be under the rule of the fathers. Thy men shall be mortals, the men of the Lord of wisdom. Buddha Mercury. Not the sons of Soma, the moon, are immortal. Cease thy complaints. Thy 7 skins are yet on thee. Thou art not ready. Thy men are not ready. Kumunda Pati is the moon, the earth's parent, in his region of Somaloka. Though the Pitras, father, are sons of the gods elsewhere, sons of Brahma and even rishis. They are generally known as lunar ancestors. Pitri Pati is the lord or king of the Pitras. Yeah, I don't know if that's a V or a Y. I'll say Yama, the god of death and the judge of mortals. The men of Buddha, Mercury, are metaphorically immortal through their wisdom. Such is the common belief of those who credit every star or planet with being inhabited. And there are men of science, M. Flammarion, among others, who believe in this fervently, on logical as well as astronomical data, the moon being an inferior body to the earth, even to say nothing of other planets, the terrestrial men produced by her sons, the lunar men, or ancestors from her shell or body, cannot be immortal. They cannot hope to become real, self-conscious, and intelligent men unless they are finished, so to say, by other creators. Thus, in the Puranic legend, the son of the moon, Soma, is Buddha, Mercury, the intelligent and the wise, because he is the offspring of Soma, the regent of the visible moon, not of Indu, the physical moon. Thus, Mercury is the elder brother of the earth, metaphorically, his stepbrother, so to say, the offspring of spirit, while she, the earth, is the progeny of the body. These allegories have a deeper and more scientific meaning, astronomically and not getting that out of my mouth today, or brain. Geologically, geez Louise, my brain, then our modern physicists are willing to admit. The whole cycle of the first war in heaven, the Taraka Maya, is as full of philosophical as cosmological astronomical truths. One can trace therein the biographs, something of that nature, of that kind of word. I don't know. This is getting frustrating again. I hate this book sometimes. Of all the planets by the history of their gods and rulers, Usanas, Sukra, and Venus, the bosom friend of Soma and the foe of Jupiter, the instructor of the gods, whose wife Tara and had been carried away by the moon, Sama, of whom he begot Buddha, took also an active part in the war against the gods, and forthwith was degraded into a demon, asura, deity, and so he remains to this day. Here the word men refers to the celestial men, or what are called in India the Pitar, the Pitris, the fathers, the progenitors of men. This does not remove the seemingly difficulty in view of modern hypothesis of the teaching, which shows these progenitors and ancestors creating the first human atoms out of their sides as astral shadows. And though it is an improvement on Adam's rib, still geological and climatic difficulties will be brought forward. Such, however, is the teaching of occultism. Man's organism was adapted in every race to its surroundings. The first root race was an ethereal, as ours is material, the progeny of the seven creators who evolved the seven primordial atoms, surely required no purified gases to breathe and live upon. Therefore, however strongly the impossibility of this teaching may be urged by devotees of modern science, the occultist maintains that the case was as stated eons of years before even the evolution of the Lemurian, the first physical man, which itself took place 18 million years ago, and we don't even think that, I don't even think that's correct. Preliminary evolution is described in one of the books of Dzyan and the commentaries thereon in the Wise. Archaic scripture teaches that at the commencement of every local kapla or round, the earth is reborn as the human viva monad, when passing into a new womb, gets recovered with a new body. So does the Java, or the earth. It gets a more perfect and solid covering with each round after re-emerging once more from the matrix of space in objectivity. This process is attended, of course, by the throes of a new birth or geological convulsions. Thus, the only reference to it is contained in one verse of the volume of the Book of Dzyan before us, where it says, "And after great throes, she, the earth, cast off her old three and put on new seven skins and stood in her first one." Pause. We're going through that right now. Homo Illuminus is incoming, where we become light. Just my opinion. This refers to the growth of the earth, whereas in stanza treating of the first round, it is said, after the changeless, immutable nature had awakened and changed causality, and from cause had became its own discrete effect. From invisible it became visible. The smallest of the small became one and the many, and producing the universe produced also the fourth loka, our earth, in garland and 7 lotuses. The earth is said to cast off her old 3 skins because this refers to the 3 preceding rounds she has already passed through, the present being the 4th round out of the 7 at the beginning of every new round. After a period of obscuration, the earth, as do also the other 6 earths, casts off or is supposed to cast off her old skins as a serpent does. Therefore, she is called in the, not getting that, I'm not, sorry, Serpa Rajini, the queen of the serpents and the mother of all the moves, all that moves. The 7 skins is the first of which she now stands, referred to the 7 geological changes which accompany and correspond to the evolution of the 7 root races of humanity. Stanza 2, which speaks of this round, begins with a few words of information concerning the new age of our earth. The chronology will be given in its place. In the commentary appended to the stanza, 2 personages are mentioned, Nadara and Asura Maya, especially the latter. All the calculations are attributed to this archaic celebrity, and what follows will make the reader superficially acquainted with some of these figures. Hang on, guys. I might have to end it here. We'll see. Okay, I can actually finish this section. Sorry, guys. I needed to see if this was going to keep going and going. 2 antediluvian astronomers. To the mind of the Eastern student of occultism, 2 figures are indissolubly connected with the mystic astronomy chronology and their cycles. 2 grand and mysterious figures towering like 2 giants in the archaic past emerge before him whenever he has to refer to yugas and kaplas. When, at what period of prehistory they lived, none save a few men in the world know, or ever can know with that certainty which is required by exact chronology. It may have been 100,000 years ago, it may have been 1 million, for all that the outside world will ever know. The mystic West and Freemasonry talk loudly of Enoch and Hermes. The mystic East speaks of Narada and the old Vedic Rishi and Asura Maya and the Atlantean. It has already been hinted that of all the incomprehensible characters in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, Narada, the son of Brahma, in Matsya Purana, the progeny of not getting that out, and the daughter Daksha in the Vishnu Purana, in the most mysterious. He is referred to by the honorable title of Deva Rishi, divine Rishi, more than a demigod, by Parasara, and yet he is cursed by Daksha and even the Brahma. He informs Kansa, the Bharava, or Vishnu in exorcism, would incarnate in the 8th child of Devaki, and thus brings the wrath of the Indian Herod upon Krishna's mother. And then from the cloud on which he is seated, invisible as true, Manarasparata, I'm butchering this shit, and I'm sorry. Like, that's why I will never read that book out loud. Ever. Ever. Never, ever. He lauds Krishna in delight at the avatar's feat of killing the monster Kazem. Narada is here, there, and everywhere, and yet none of the Puranas gives the true characteristics of the great enemy of physical procreation. Whatever those characteristics may be in Hindu esotericism, Narada, who is called in Chris Himalayan occultism Pishun, the messenger, or the Greek angelos, is the sole confidant and the executor of the universal decrees of karma and ade buddhi, a kind of active and ever incarnating logos, whose leads and guides human affairs from the beginning to the end of the Kapala. Peshhan is a general, not a special Hindu possession. He is the mysterious guiding intelligent power which gives the impulse to and regulates the impetus of cycles, kapalas, and universal events. He is karma's visible adjuster on the general scale, the inspirer and the leader of the greatest heroes of the Mahabharata. In the exoteric works, he is referred to by some very uncomplimentary names, such as Kali, Strife Maker, Capyvarata, Monkey Face, and even Pishuna the Spy, though elsewhere he is called Deva Brahma. Even Sir W. Jones was strongly impressed with the mysterious character from what he gathered in the Sanskrit studies. He compares him to Hermes and Mercury and calls him the eloquent messenger of the gods. All this leads that late Dr. Keenly on the ground that the Hindus believed him to be a great rishi who is forever wandering about the earth giving good counsel. To see him in one of those 12 messiahs, he was perhaps not so far off the real track as some imagine. What Narada really is cannot be explained in print, nor would the modern generations of the profane gather much from the information. But it may be remarked that if there is a Hindu pantheon, a deity which resembles Jehovah in tempting by suggestion of thoughts and hardening of the hearts of those whom he would make his tools and victims, it is Narada. Only with the latter is it no desire to obtain a pretext for plaguing, and thus showing that I am the Lord God, nor is it through any ambitious or selfish motive, but verily to serve and guide universal progress and evolution. Narada is one of the few prominent characters, some save gods in the Puranas, who visit the so-called nether or infernal regions. Whether or not it was from his intercourse with the 1,000-headed Shisha, the serpent whom bears the 7 no, I'm not going there. And the entire world like a diadem upon his head, and who is the great teacher of astronomy. That's Narada learned all that he knew. Certain it is what he surpasses Garga's guru in his knowledge of cyclic intricacies. It is he who has charge of our progress and national weal or woe. It is he who brings on wars and puts an end to them. In the old stanzas, Pishun is credited with having calculated and recorded all the astronomical and cosmic cycles to come, and with having taught the science to some first gazers at the starry vault. And in Ashuramaya, who is said to have based all his astronomical works upon these records, to have determined the duration of all the past geological and cosmical periods and length of all the cycles to come till the end of the life cycle or the end of the 7th race. There is a work among the secret books called the Mirror of When words are broken up, my brain can't see them. Sorry, guys. I'll write it down and figure this out because I'm kind of getting really bad at reading all of a sudden. I'm glad I looked it up because I would have totally fucked it up. Futurity. Wherein all the kapalas within kapalas and cycles within the bosom of Sesha, or infinite time, are recorded. This work is ascribed to Peshun Narada. There is another old work which is attributed to various Atlanteans. It is these two records which furnish us with the figures of our cycles and the possibility of calculating the date of cycles to come. The chronological calculations which will presently be given are, however, those of the Brahmins, are explained further on, but most of them are also those of the Secret Doctrine. The chronology and computations of the Brahmin initiates are based upon the zodiacal records of India and the works of the above mentioned astronomer and magician Ashura Maya. The Atlantean zodiacal records cannot err, as they were compiled under the guidance of those who first taught astronomy, among other things, to mankind. But here again, we are deliberately and recklessly facing a new difficulty. We shall be told that our statement is contracted by science in the person of a man regarded as a great authority in the West upon all subjects of Sanskrit literature, Professor Albrecht Weber of Berlin. This, to our great regret, cannot be helped, and we are ready to maintain that what is now stated. Asura Maya, to whom the epic tradition points as the earliest astronomer in Aryavarta, one to whom the sun god imparted the knowledge of stars in propria persona, as Dr. Weber himself states, is identified by him in some very mysterious way with Ptolemy of the Greeks. No more valid reason is given for the identification than that this later name, Ptolemos, is, as were, see from the inscription of, don't know how to say that, became the Indian Termaya, out of which the name Ashura Maya might very easily grow. No doubt it might be. The vital question is, are there any good proofs that it has thus grown? The only evidence that is given for it is that it must be so, since the Maya is distinctly assigned to Romakapura in the West. The Maya is evident since no Sanskritist among Europeans can tell where that locality of Romakapura was, except indeed that it was somewhere in the West. Anyhow, as no member of the Asiatic Society of Western Orientalists will ever listen to the Brahmanical teachings, it is useless to take the objections of European Orientalists into consideration. Romakapura was in the West, certainly, since it was part of the parcel of the last continent of Atlantis, and it is equally certain that it is Atlantis, which is assigned to the Hindu Puranas as the birthplace of Asura Maya, as great a magician as he was an astrologer and astronomer. Moreover, Professor Weber refuses to assign any great antiquity to the Indian zodiac, and feels inclined to think that the Hindus never knew of the zodiac at all till they had borrowed the one from the Greeks. This statement clashes with the most ancient traditions of India and must therefore be ignored. We are the more justified in ignoring it, as the learned German professor himself tells us in the introduction to his work, that in addition to the natural obstacles which impede investigation in India, there still prevails a dense mist of prejudices and preconceived opinions hovering over the land and enfolding it as with a veil. Caught in that veil, it is no wonder that Dr. Weber should himself have been led into involuntary errors. Let us hope that he knows better now. Now, whether Asura Maya is to be considered a modern myth, a personage who flourished in the day of the Macedonian Greeks, or as that which he claimed to be by the occultists, in any case, his calculations agree entirely with those of the secret records. From fragments of immensity, old works attributed to the Atlantean astronomer and found in southern India, the calendar elsewhere mentioned was compiled by two very learned Brahmins in 1884 and 1885. The work is proclaimed by the best pundits as faultless from the grammatical standpoint, and thus far relates to the chronology of the Orthodox teachings. If we compared its statements with those made several years earlier in Isis Unveiled, with the fragmentary teachings published by some Theosophists, and with the present data derived from the secret books of occultism, the whole will be found to agree perfectly, save in some detail, which may not be explained, for secrets of higher initiation, as unknown to the writer as they are to the reader, would have to be revealed, and that cannot be done. Finish this section. Next is stanza 2. So we finished finally stanza 1. That was long. So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace. Grace and compassion, protection and shielding energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder. Be the lighthouse. Seed your truths. Thank you for the Amish mindset. Sorry for all the mispronunciations and can't getting words out. I mean, once again, I could take my teeth down. Dyslexic and just, I can't project a lot of words. Not because I'm stupid. I can read them in my head, possibly butchering them there too. But her work is not easy. And even any of the other cultural names, like go try reading Icelandic names. Like, yeah, just, it's not easy. Like, take another language you have not been introduced to. You're not getting it pronounced properly. Unless you know somebody that has the language and sits there and like does it with you, because that's how I learn. So guys, please be safe, be seen. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.